Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to explore all these videos about productivity, agile transformations, and of course, the future of work with AI. Hopefully we can all learn something, whether we're team leaders or just trying to figure out our own careers in this crazy age of AI.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think these videos emphasize the human element a lot. It's a good reminder that even with all this AI stuff, our mindset, leadership, and company culture are still super important for success.
Totally agree. And you know what really stood out to me? That first video talking about the productivity tax that comes from toxic workplaces. Like, fear-based environments actually cost companies billions.
The numbers are pretty shocking. Some research shows that disengaged employees cost U.S. companies something like 450 to 550 billion dollars every single year. That's billion with a B. And it's not just about lost revenue, it's increased turnover, higher healthcare costs, more absenteeism. Basically, it affects everything.
And there's science behind it too. That video mentioned how our cognitive function drops when we're stressed or scared. Something like a 37% drop. Makes sense why it's so hard to think straight when you're in survival mode.
Yeah, exactly. It's like our brains are wired to survive. When we feel threatened, all we can think about is protecting ourselves. It's like, how are you supposed to do your best work when your brain thinks you're running from a tiger?
It's like the Google study, Project Aristotle, right? They found that psychological safety was the #1 thing for high-performing teams. So if we want people to be at their best, they need to feel safe, respected, and comfortable speaking their minds.
For sure. Psychological safety means people can take risks, share ideas, and even admit when they messed up without feeling like they'll be punished or humiliated. That's when our brains can shift from survival mode to problem solving mode, and that can lead to way more creativity and efficiency. I think some studies say it can be a boost of up to 30%.
And the videos give some great real-world examples. One speaker talked about this team member who stayed late to fix a problem even though they had a date night plan.
Yeah, that one was powerful. It showed how a positive work environment motivates people from within. Like, they stayed late because they cared, not because they felt pressure.
It's crazy how much of a difference leadership can make. Another speaker mentioned a software company that saw a 40% jump in productivity, and their stock price increased 5 times after they switched to an empathy-first management style.
That's the thing about empathy and leadership. It's not about being a pushover. It's about understanding your team so you can create an environment where they feel supported and valued.
And this doesn't just apply to internal teams either. One of the videos said customer satisfaction could increase by 30 to 40% in companies that put empathy first. So it's a win-win for everyone.
There's this great story from Simon Sinek about a barista named Noah who absolutely loved his job. His secret, his managers always treated him with respect. Just simple things like acknowledging him and asking if he needed anything. It really shows how much those little acts of kindness matter.
That's so true.
Okay.
Okay, so let's switch gears a bit and talk about agile principles. One video really focused on the idea of simplicity. Specifically, simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done. Sounds great in theory, but how do you actually put that into practice?
Yeah, well, one speaker shared a perfect example of what not to do. They described a team that spent 6 months building a feature with tons of options, and in the end, the customers only ever used three of them. Classic case of confusing output with value.
So how do we avoid that trap? The video suggests focusing on desired outcomes, which basically means figuring out exactly what we want to achieve from the customer's perspective before we even start building anything.
Right. Desired outcomes keep everyone focused and prevent us from getting distracted by unnecessary features or complexity. It's about changing our mindset from, can we add this, to, should we add this?
And that's where acceptance criteria come in. It's like having guardrails to keep us on track and prevent over-engineering. Instead of getting bogged down in super detailed task lists, we need to define the essential outcomes we want to achieve.
One video had a story about a team that followed a 5-page acceptance criteria document to the letter, but the customer was still unhappy. It's a good reminder that being too prescriptive can stifle creativity and actually create misalignment.
They use this great analogy, the writing utensil example. Like, a teacher asks for a writing utensil for grading, and the team gives them a blue pen with dotted lines. Technically, it meets the criteria, but the teacher was probably expecting a red pen with solid lines. It's a funny example, but it highlights how important those nuances are in acceptance criteria.
Yeah, the point is that acceptance criteria should be about setting boundaries, not dictating solutions. They should give teams room to be creative while still delivering what truly matters to the customer.
And this is where AI starts to enter the picture. One video talked about how AI can actually make it tempting to overbuild, even with acceptance criteria in place. It's like this paradox of AI's acceleration. It can help us build more, faster, but that doesn't automatically mean we should.
It's like having this super powerful 3D printer that can make anything you imagine. The temptation is to keep adding more features and complexity, but that can become a nightmare to manage later on.
Right. One speaker shared a story about an AI implementation that got so complex it was basically unmanageable. It's a good reminder that AI can amplify both good and bad practices, so we need to be really strategic about how we use it.
The video suggests focusing on a minimum marketable product, or MMP, so you can deliver value quickly and get feedback before things get too complex. It's about starting small, learning as you go, and iterating rather than trying to build everything all at once.
And that brings us to practical strategies for avoiding AI scope creep. One video recommended defining desired outcomes before you even start using AI, setting really clear constraints, and focusing on outcome-based acceptance criteria.
Yeah, and don't forget about regular complexity checks. And you need to factor in the long-term costs of maintaining whatever you build. Just because AI can implement something easily doesn't mean it'll be easy to maintain.
They gave a real-world example of a customer service AI team that focused on just 3 core features before launch, and then used real usage data to decide what to add next. It's a good example of using AI effectively while staying focused on what truly matters.
It really comes down to this. AI doesn't change the fundamental principles of good work. It just amplifies them. Whether we're talking about agile transformations or AI, it's all about clarity, focus, and truly understanding what your customer needs.
Okay, so let's talk about agile transformations specifically, especially in 2025. One video pointed out that something like 75% of companies have already adopted Agile. So if your organization hasn't made the switch yet, you're actually in the minority.
The speaker emphasized that we really need to understand the why behind the transformation. It's not about blindly following the crowd. It's about figuring out what specific, measurable, desired outcomes make sense for your company's culture and goals.
They had this interesting idea of a company DNA check to see if your desired outcomes actually fit with your current values and practices. It's like a reality check to make sure you're not trying to force something that doesn't belong.
One surprising thing they said was that maybe a full agile transformation isn't right for every company. They suggested exploring other options if your desired outcomes and company DNA are just too different.
They also recommended bringing in an Agile expert to help guide you and challenge your assumptions. It's like having a seasoned Sherpa to help you navigate the tricky terrain of Agile.
And get this, they said you should actually start with HR and finance, not your development teams.
Wait, really? Why HR and finance? Those seem like the departments that would be the least likely to embrace Agile.
The logic is that if your HR and finance systems don't support agile ways of working, your development teams are going to keep hitting roadblocks. It's like trying to run a marathon with weights strapped to your ankles.
So it's about setting up your teams for success by making sure the whole organization is moving in the same direction. Makes sense.
They also talked about shifting left, which means getting audit and compliance teams involved early on to prevent those last-minute surprises and delays.
It's all about breaking down silos and creating a culture of collaboration and transparency across the entire organization.
And here's how AI fits into all of this. The speaker said that agile transformation and AI strategy should be seen as two sides of the same coin.
So it's not either. It's about using both to build a truly high-performing organization.
Exactly. AI can be super helpful for supporting agile transformations. It can analyze data to find bottlenecks and risks, track how things are progressing, and even suggest ways to improve your processes.
So AI isn't just about automating things. It's about providing insights
Mhm.
and helping teams make better decisions.
Right. And one of the best things about AI is that it can learn and adapt, which is crucial in the ever-changing world of agile.
So AI can actually help us become more agile by giving us the data and insights we need to make faster, more informed decisions.
One of the most powerful things we can do in this AI age is to assume positive intent. It can make a huge difference, especially as we try to figure out how to integrate AI effectively.
Let's unpack that idea of assuming positive intent for a second. It sounds a little bit, I don't know, touchy-feely, but I'm guessing there's more to it than meets the eye.
You're right. Assuming positive intent isn't about being naive or ignoring problems. It's about approaching things, believing that people are generally trying to do the right thing, even if their actions don't always make sense to us.
So it's like giving people the benefit of the doubt, even when it's hard. But how do we do that without getting taken advantage of?
Well, the speaker gave some good advice. First, remember that assuming positive intent is about trying to understand someone's motivation, not necessarily agreeing with their actions.
So we can acknowledge that someone might have good intentions even if we don't like how they're behaving.
Exactly. And second, be willing to have those tough conversations when you need to. If someone keeps doing things that are harmful, even if their intentions seem good, you gotta address it directly.
So it's about setting clear boundaries and expectations while still believing that the person means well.
Right. And finally, trust your gut. If something feels wrong, don't ignore it. Assuming positive intent doesn't mean blindly trusting everyone. It's about approaching situations with a more open and understanding mindset.
So it's about choosing to see the best in people, even when it's challenging. But why is this so important, especially now with AI becoming more and more prevalent?
Well, AI is changing the workplace in ways we're still trying to wrap our heads around. It's natural to feel anxious, even scared about these changes. But assuming positive intent can help us overcome those fears and approach AI with a more collaborative and optimistic mindset.
So instead of seeing AI as a threat, we can see it as this powerful tool that can actually help us and create new opportunities.
The speaker used this great analogy of a pilot and autopilot. The autopilot can handle a lot of the routine stuff, but the pilot is still essential for navigating, making decisions, and handling unexpected situations.
That's a great way to think about it. It's not about humans versus AI. It's about humans and AI working together towards a common goal.
And assuming positive intent helps us build that trust and collaboration, which is crucial for navigating all the complexities of AI integration and creating a future of work that benefits everyone.
So it's not just about being nice. It's about fostering a culture of understanding, respect, and innovation where both humans and AI can thrive.
Remember, assuming positive intent is a practice, not a destination. We're all human, we all mess up. The key is to keep learning, adjust our approach as we go, and try to create work environments that are more positive and collaborative.
One of the things that really struck me was how all of these videos emphasized moving away from that old command and control leadership style. It just doesn't seem to work anymore, especially with how fast everything is changing and with AI becoming so prevalent.
Yeah, it's like trying to steer a speedboat with a rusty old anchor. You need something more agile, something that empowers teams to make decisions, experiment, and adapt quickly.
One of the speakers was talking about how traditional leadership often relies on fear and micromanagement to try and motivate people. But in reality, fear just kills creativity, innovation, and ultimately productivity. It creates this environment where people are too scared to speak up, share ideas, or take risks.
It's so true. You can have the best agile processes and AI tools in the world, but if your culture is toxic, it's not going to get you very far.
Exactly. The videos all pointed to trust as the antidote to that kind of toxicity. One of them highlighted all the benefits of high-trust workplaces, things like increased engagement, lower turnover, and much higher productivity.
It makes sense when you think about it. When people feel trusted and respected, they're more likely to go above and beyond, be more creative, and really own their work.
One of the speakers shared a great story about a team member who was going through a really tough time personally. Instead of trying to hide it, they felt comfortable enough to talk to their manager about it, and the manager responded with empathy and support.
And what happened? I bet that team member felt valued, stayed with the company, and continued to be a top performer.
Exactly. It's amazing how much of a difference a little bit of kindness and understanding can make. It's not about being soft. It's about creating a culture where people feel safe to be themselves and bring their whole selves to work.
And that psychological safety is absolutely essential for agile teams, especially when you're integrating AI into the mix. You need people to feel comfortable experimenting, sharing ideas, and even admitting when they make mistakes without fear of being punished or judged.
It's about creating an environment where learning and continuous improvement are celebrated, not punished, where mistakes are seen as opportunities to learn and grow.
That brings us to another really important concept from these videos, embracing failure as a crucial part of growth. Unfortunately, in a lot of traditional work environments, failure is still seen as a sign of weakness or incompetence.
It's like that old saying, to err is human, to forgive divine, but to get caught, that's a career-limiting move. No wonder people are so afraid to take risks or try new things.
But in agile environments, failure is seen as a natural part of the learning process. The key is to fail fast, learn from those failures, and adapt quickly.
One of the speakers compared it to a scientific experiment. You have a hypothesis, you test it, and if it doesn't work, you adjust your approach and try again. It's about embracing that iterative process of experimentation and learning.
And AI can actually help us speed up that learning process. By analyzing data from our past work, AI can identify patterns, highlight areas where we can improve, and even suggest new approaches. It becomes a valuable partner in helping us learn and grow.
That's an interesting thought. So instead of fearing that AI will replace us, should we be thinking about how it can empower us to learn and grow more effectively?
Absolutely. We should be focusing on how we can collaborate with AI to achieve things that we couldn't do on our own. It's about creating a true partnership between humans and AI, where each side contributes its unique strengths.
That's a powerful shift in perspective. So instead of being afraid of AI, we should focus on how we can work with it to enhance our own capabilities and achieve better results.
Exactly. And that brings us to another crucial aspect that was highlighted in all of the videos. The importance of clear communication and transparency, especially when you're going through an agile transformation or integrating AI. One of the videos really emphasized keeping everyone in the loop, from leadership all the way to the people on the front lines.
It's about making sure that everyone understands the reasons behind the changes, the goals you're working towards, and how they can contribute to making it all happen.
And communication needs to be a two-way street. It's not just about top-down messaging, but about creating a culture of open dialogue and feedback where everyone feels comfortable sharing their thoughts, concerns, and ideas.
One of the speakers talked about creating safe spaces for these kinds of conversations to take place. It's about setting some ground rules, building trust, and making sure that everyone feels heard and respected.
And believe it or not, AI can actually play a role in creating those safe spaces. By providing anonymous feedback channels, sentiment analysis tools, and other data-driven insights, AI can help us understand how people are feeling and identify areas where we can improve communication.
That's fascinating. So it's not about using AI to monitor or control, but to create an environment where feedback is welcomed and valued.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another crucial element that was highlighted in several of the videos: leadership. We need leaders who are willing to embrace change, challenge the status quo, and empower their teams.
I'm sensing a theme here, moving away from that old top-down command and control style of leadership and embracing something more collaborative, like servant leadership.
You got it. One of the speakers talked about leaders needing to be willing to get their hands dirty and work alongside their teams instead of just giving orders from on high.
It's about leading by example, showing that you're willing to learn, adapt, and yes, even fail sometimes.
And here's where AI can be helpful. By providing data-driven insights, AI can help leaders make more informed decisions, identify areas for improvement, and track progress toward their goals.
So AI isn't about replacing leaders, it's about giving them the tools and information they need to be more effective.
Exactly. And that ties into another big theme that came up: the importance of continuous learning and development. In today's world, things are changing so fast that we can't afford to rest on our laurels. We need to constantly be learning, growing, and adapting to stay ahead of the curve.
One speaker talked about creating a culture of learning within organizations. It's about encouraging people to experiment, take risks, and learn from their mistakes. It's about providing access to training and development opportunities and celebrating those who are always trying to learn new things.
And AI can be an incredible tool for fostering that culture of learning. Think about personalized learning recommendations, instant access to vast amounts of information, and even AI-powered coaching and mentoring. It could revolutionize how we learn and grow throughout our careers.
It's exciting to think about all the possibilities. It sounds like AI has the potential to personalize and democratize access to knowledge in ways we haven't even imagined yet.
I agree. And it all comes back to approaching AI with a sense of curiosity and a willingness to explore new possibilities rather than letting fear hold us back.
It's about believing that the people who are developing and implementing AI, whether they're leaders, colleagues, or even the developers themselves, are ultimately doing it to make our lives better and create a better future.
Exactly. It's about focusing on the potential for good that AI offers and working together to make sure it's used ethically and responsibly.
These videos were packed with insights, and I really encourage everyone listening to check out the full presentations. You'll find links in the description below.
It's time to embrace the future of work with a positive attitude and a commitment to always learning and growing. Let's use AI and agile principles to create a workplace where everyone can thrive.